Hello, welcome to Shelfside Reviews, where we review board games. Today, we're reviewing Dominion. So, let's hop right into it. Alright, so Dominion is a deck building game for 2 to 4 players. Takes about 30 minutes. Now, what are you doing in this game? Well, as a deck building game, you are going to be building a deck to score tons of victory points. How do we do that? Well, let me tell you how we do that. So what you're doing in this game is you're looking to fill your deck up with a bajillion of these lands right here. Now, lands are going to be these green cards with a big fat number in the middle. That number is the amount of points this particular land card is worth. Now, there's going to be many different variations of these lands, just like 4 of them. And the person at the end of the game who has the most amount of victory points accumulated through these lands wins the game. They are the most lordly, the most dastardly dude who has all the goddamn land. What do you get in a box of Dominion? Well, firstly, you get your instruction booklet and a neat little quick start guide. You also get all your land cards. You also get action cards. I'll go over what these actually do in the game later, but just know that you get 24 piles of 10 of these. And this is going to be like one of the most important parts of your deck. And then you're going to get a bunch of money. This money is going to be spent to do things in the game, like buying lands and action cards. Here is what a game board of Dominion looks like. You got your 10 action cards, your 3 money cards, your 3 land cards, and I got my deck here. Now, on a turn of Dominion, what you're going to do is you're going to draw 5 cards from your deck. All right? Now, when you start out the game, your deck is only going to include 7 coppers, which are worth 1 money, and 3 of these estates, which are worth 1 point each. Now, looking at a hand like this, looks like I got 4 coppers, so that's in total 4 money, and an estate, which is 1 point. Now, the estate, though, isn't actually doing anything during gameplay. This is only there to count for points at the end of the game, meaning that in this hand, this card's basically useless. So, we're going to put that aside for now because this is essentially what we're going to be working with. Now, with this 4 money, I can use it to purchase any card on the table with a value of 4 or less. And you can see the value of a card in its bottom left corner. Now, as an example, this one has 5. I can't buy that. But this feast right here, tasty 4. I could totally buy this one. And so how that would work is I would take the feast and all my money, put them together, put them in a discard pile alongside my estate. Now, you might be going like, well, what the heck? Why do you just literally throw everything in the discard pile once you buy it? And let me tell you why. So, after that's done, that would be my turn, and I would draw my next 5 cards. This would be my next hand. Now, what happens when your deck runs out is that you take all the cards in your discard pile, you shuffle them together, and then, boom, that's your new deck. And you keep doing that over and over again, buying, shuffling, discarding, buying, shuffling, discarding, until eventually either all of the biggest lands in the game run out, or 3 piles out of the 10 action cards are out. Once that happens, you go through your, hopefully now, stacked out deck. You count up all your green little land cards, add up those points, and see who here was the most dominant in this game of Dominion. Also, real quick, I'm just going to tell you to read these cards. Now, most of the time, you're just going to have a bunch of text in them that like do a thing. You just follow text and do its effect. But for some cards, they got these keywords on them. Now, thankfully, this market here has literally all the keywords on it. Very versatile card, yes, I know. So I'm going to go run through that real quick, explain what those things do real quick. So when it says plus card, so this is the one that says plus 1 card, that means draw a card. So if it says plus 3 cards, you draw 3 cards. In this case, it says plus 1, so you draw 1 card. Next is action. Now, normally, these cards, these action cards, you can only play 1 of them per turn. But if you play an action card that says plus 1 action, guess what? You can now play another action card. Sick. So if you have a card that's like plus 3 actions, oh my buy, you can just play 3 more action cards. That's pretty good. Next one's 1 buy. And just like I said with you have 1 action per turn, you also only have 1 buy per turn. This changes that. Boom. You get another buy. You can buy 2 things if you want. You can like, if you have like 18 money, now you can buy like 2 things that cost 9. I don't think there's anything that costs 9, but this is an example. And lastly, there's just money on the card. That just means the card just gives you that much money for that turn. That doesn't mean you take one of these cards and you put it in your hand or whatever. It just means like, oh, this basically just counts as like one of this for the turn. Got it? Got it. Cool. So, the buy mechanic is it's pretty fun, you know? It's like easy to understand, game's fairly simple. And once you actually get your engine going, ooh, the game kicks up. You're having a great time being like, oh, I'm playing all these cards, I'm doing all these things, and I can take all these more cards and do all the yada yada. So, the game does that pretty god dang well. Very, very simple, fun deck building thing to get going. Also has a great game length. You know, I know a lot of games, the length on it, pretty approximate. In this game, it's pretty spot on. I would say most games actually are about 30 minutes. Another thing about the game length is that if you don't like that time length, you can also dictate it alongside the group, right? Because, again, like I said, the game ends when 3 action piles run out, or you buy out all of these lands, the 6s. So if you really want to stall out the game, you just don't buy out everything and just keep on just stalling out and buying whatever. But there'll always be that one person be like, I'm sick of this. I'm clearly winning. I can just go and buy all of these things and end the game. So that's cool. Another thing, the box. Ooh, the box. Mwah. Love it. Absolutely love what designers did with it. Very simple. Now I know it's very easy to organize cards in comparison to other board game components, but I still gotta give props where props are due. Very neat. 2 rows just organized with all the labels you need for every single card, all neatly stacked up in the box, right? You need to get any pile of cards in the game, it's there, you grab it, you take it out, you slam that baby on the board, you're good to go. Now you might have recalled that earlier in the review, I talked about, well, you need to grab out like 10 random piles of action cards to put on the table. How do you determine the randomness? Well, let me tell you how you do it. The designers are very, very nice. See, these cards have blue backs, normal cards don't have that. So these blue back cards is a pile of 1 copy of every single card in the game. So what you do is you shuffle this baby up, and then you take out your 10 cards, and you're like, ba boom, these are the cards we're playing with. We're using these cards, guys. All right, and then you just take out those cards, put them on the table. You are good to go. Last, but certainly not least about the good points about this game is, well, you might have noticed that one skill we had before, you know, where that one dickhead, God, he was taking so long on his turn. And our guy was just kind of sitting there. Well, this game does involve a lot of shuffling, as you might imagine, because you do go through your deck pretty quickly. There's actually a lot of this game just spent where you're just shuffling and shuffling and shuffling. And hilariously enough, this actually does deal with the downtime pretty well, at least in my opinion. Now, here's where I need to start giving you my thoughts on what's not so good about Dominion. Firstly, the strategies start to get a little stale once you start to know all the cards, because then you look at all kind of combinations and you're just like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to go for. Early game, if I get mine, that's pretty good. Oh man, I better get Witch early if I want to stack curses on people. Like you just like get an idea of what you're doing in the game. It's very much autoplay at a certain point. Tying in the last point about how this game, it's pretty repetitive. It's also kind of solitaire-like in the gameplay. What do I mean by that? Well, even though this game is a multiplayer game of 2 to 4 people, you mostly just play the game without really caring about what other people are doing. You can kind of just do your own thing. And sure, there are cards that are called attack cards that let you negatively impact other players, but most of the time the effects are decently marginal, and it's not going to heavily impact your strategy and what you are trying to do with your own stuff. Next gripe I got with the game, these bad boys. Gold. You know, the thing that gives you 3 money and costs 6 to buy and add into your deck. What do I have against these cards? Well, it's a very boring, very safe card for how god dang effective it is. You can literally just stack up your entire deck with nothing but gold and you will probably do pretty well in the game. Like, what? This is way too safe of a strategy. This needs to be toned down just a little bit. I like to see more of those action cards doing cool things in the game. Another thing I want to circle around back to, remember I talked about shuffling can also be a good thing because it alleviates that downtime? Well, unfortunately, remember, that constant shuffling is kind of, mashing the edge of your card against your card. So if you're constantly shuffling without sleeves, oh boy, these cards are in for a rough beating. So yeah, I would recommend sleeving the game if you do plan on playing it a lot, which, by the way, is a giant pain in the butt. Because, oh my god, there's like 600 cards in there? I don't even know how many cards. There's a lot of cards to sleeve. My last gripe with this game surrounds the moat and attack cards. Now, the moat cards are these blue cards, very pretty cards, that are your only line of defense against the numerous attack cards in this game. Now, what normally happens is when someone plays an attack card, if you have a moat card in your hand, you can just show it and be like, a bazinga, screw you. I do not be affected by your attack. I mean, pretty straightforward, seems like it works in concept. But here's what's wrong with it. First thing is that whenever there are moats around, typically people will fight over them like crazy. Those cards deck out real fast and no one wants to deal with those stupid attack cards. Secondly, the moat is a little bit too RNG, you know, it's a little too random. Like sometimes you just buy like a crap ton of moats because you're just like, I don't want to deal with those stupid attack cards. And then you don't draw them ever when someone else plays their attack cards. And then you draw your moat later on. It's a kind of mediocre card on its own, and you just feel bad because it's like, what the hell? It got kind of wasted. So that's pretty dumb. My first proposal to change that would be, I would have much rather prefer it where you should play the moat card. It does its effect, which is you draw 2 cards, and then you leave it in front of you, and then it blocks 1 attack, and you can only have 1 moat card at max in front of you. I think this would very much solve that randomness factor, because then you don't have to constantly have a moat in your hand perfectly at the right time every time someone else plays an attack card. And also, if you draw multiple moats, then it's not that big of a deal, because then like when you're playing one, it stays out in front of you for like a bit, right? And then also it gives more choice to your attackers, because say like in a 4-player game, 2 people would have moat cards in front of them. That disincentivizes the attackers pretty well unless they have only the attack card as their option, because then they might be like, I don't really want to be the one to pop their moats. That's like a waste of my attack, so I'm going to play my other attack card. You know, so you have to do a little bit of 50-50, you know, like judging in your brain about whether or not you actually want to attack people. I like it when there's a little bit more decision making in that way and a little less feels bad about wasted moats. Overall, I feel that this game was really, really fun at first, but nowadays I can't say that I am the most eager to whip it out. So what exactly do I think how this game scores? Here on Shelfside, we like to do our scores a little differently. We're first going to drop a more objective score. I mean, it's kind of a loaded phrase, but the point is that's like a score that we think most people can like agree with this score to some level. And then we'll give you our personal scores, as in like there's literally nothing to it except just how me and Ashton personally feel about the game. Objectively, I think I'm going to have to score this game, bam, 8 out of 10. A great game. This game is a great deck builder. It's very short, very accessible, very simple, does a great job at being what it's supposed to be doing. It's got great theming, you're a dickish landlord buying a bunch of land, love it, gameplay represents it pretty well. But unfortunately, what gets marked down here are a lot of those like minor grievances that we've brought up in the con section before. So the game design needing constant shuffling, like I'm not really sure you would fix that, but I feel like that's definitely a thing that could add up and be a problem after, you know, too many long games of this and damaging your cards. Some cards being kind of poorly worded. Like there's a couple of those cards in there that like they're just like boxes of text that are very small and also kind of confusing. I'm pretty sure a lot of the description here can be simplified and decreased by like a sentence or two, and then you can also boost up the font and make it a lot more readable. Lastly, there's a little bit of that power discrepancy between a couple of cards. So like I said earlier, you know, when a game starts to get to that point where you play a little too much, there's a lot of that solitaire going on. You're very, very aware of some cards being like, I'm never going to buy that card in this game. But some of them's like, yep, I'm just pile on the markets. Give me all the laboratories. I would basically say that you get what you pay for. You know, it's like, that's decent longevity, but you play it too much and, you know, you start seeing the patterns. Now for my personal score. What do I think of Dominion? It's a little bit unfortunate. I'm going to have to do the game a 4 out of 10. Now, on the scale here, that's slightly below average. So why am I giving it such a harsh rating? Well, again, like I said before, the personal score is nothing but just personal. Like, there's not really any objectivity here. It's just how I feel about the game. And after playing it so much, like early on, it's pretty like 8 out of 10, pretty 7 out of 10, pretty 9 out of 10 around that area. But as the years have gone on, now the game has pretty much felt the same to me every time I've whipped it out. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty 4 out of 10. It's slightly below average. I am not the most eager to whip it out. What about you, Ash? What do you think about the game? What's your personal score to this?
You know, I'm gonna have to disagree with you about this.
Okay, cool. Lighting's good and all that.
Dude, you're like the same height as me, dude. Like, literally, we don't have to do anything except for you just sit there and get.
All right, okay. Dominion. I think my score is. I'm gonna point here. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Before it was an 8 out of 10, but after thinking about what some stuff Daniel said, I'd have to give it a 7. I really like the game a lot. It's just a little too simple for my my taste. I've been playing the game for like, what is it, like 6 years so far. Still really like it. Like, be down to pull out anytime. It's just that, as Daniel was saying, it's just way too simple. As like an intro to deck building, great, fantastic game. Love to whip it out, show people that are like family members or distant friends, like, hey, this is what board gaming can be. But in terms of playing with my friend group or just like inviting people over to specifically play Dominion, not so much. So that's why 7 out of 10. Still really good game, just not, you know, off the charts for me. But the expansion stuff fixes almost everything. So in that case, Dominion's a great game. But in terms of just a space game, 7 out of 10.
But wait, there's more. So this game that we just reviewed right here, Dominion, the version we have is actually the first edition. You know, the old version. If you try to buy this game right now, there is, in fact, a second edition. And while we don't own that game, I've done enough research online to know that they actually have, in fact, addressed a lot of the issues that we've brought up in our review. Things like the text being a little convoluted and some power discrepancies. In fact, I think 6 of the cards are shipped. They just yeeted them out of here. They're not even in the game mode. Replace them with more balanced stuff. And overall, I'm pretty sure that it is a much better experience than first edition. So that's just a little disclaimer. So if you want to go buy this Dominion, definitely go check it out. I would recommend it, but, you know, even though I don't personally like it, I'm still like, it's a good game. But anyways, thanks for watching. This has been Shelfside Gaming. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe and all the other cool things YouTubers are doing. And we'll see you all on the next review. Goodbye.